In our last lecture, we looked at the advocacy strategies of NGOs. In this lecture, we turn our attention to the fundraising strategies NGOs employ. One of the most prominent and major entities to actually obtain funding is through foreign donors. Foreign funding is in theory available to NGOs from international NGOs, from international foundations, bilateral aid agencies, and multilateral development agencies. In fact, some of these agencies are likely to have offices at the national level within someone's home country, and this is obviously the place to start for many NGOs. Others, on the other hand, do not have a local presence and need to be contacted through their head offices. There is, of course, a need for realism when it comes to foreign funding. And effectively what we're suggesting here is that the best situation is where your organization and the foreign donor organization are united in a common sort of goals. And they've decided in many respects to work together towards that common goal. When we are looking at foreign donors' actions, it's not really stemming from simple altruism. Rather, foreign funders may assist the NGOs due to perhaps a political decision or signal in the donor's own nation. They can assist the NGO due to the desire by the local representative to impress head office or to expand his or her portfolio of activities. They may assist the NGO because there's funding left over during the budgeted year, and as such there is some small funds left over in order to fund the NGO's activities. And finally, they may assist the NGO due to an attempt by the organization to involve themselves in developmental activities, in some sort of fad or fashion perhaps. An NGO's ability to raise funding depends on factors both internal and external to the organization. Why don't we speak a bit more first about the internal factors and then turn to the external ones? Factors internal to the organization, that is, questions that the prospective donor will be asking about the NGO include, is the organization independent and nonpartisan? Is the organization effective? What is the track record of the NGO? Is the organization credible? Is it well managed? Does the organization have a clear idea of where it's going? Is the proposal clear and well written? Does the proposal provide all the information that the prospective donor needs to know? Does the proposal reflect a planning process? Now, there's also external factors, and these are questions that your NGO will be asking about the prospective donor. For example, is the donor interested in the subject of advocacy or an area of focus that you're actually looking at as an NGO? Does the donor have funds available in your country? Does the donor provide funds in the amounts that you're asking? Does the donor provide funds for the time periods that you're asking for? Are you prepared for the rules and regulations of this particular donor? Does the donor have a good track record of keeping its word, delivering on time? Are you prepared to take money from this particular donor? As we have mentioned last lecture, donors think in terms of projects, time-limited specific activities within fixed budgets. You will most certainly have to request support for the work that you want to do in terms of a project, even if what you really want is long-term budgetary support for your organization programs. It is very likely that a donor will still want to start small with a short time scale project. This, if carried out successfully, will get you established, and you can build on the success of this to request larger funds and more general programmatic funds. Occasionally, you may find that a donor who will be prepared to talk to you about long-term sustainability for your organization. This can come in the form of an endowment or a gift of a building which can be used both for your office and can be rented out for your organizational income. Be prepared to raise such issues, emphasizing the need for sustainability of your NGO, but such donors are in fact indeed rare. Finally, be aware of the following factors that limit the attractiveness of funding, particularly for foreign funders. Namely, international aid is fickle. It changes with political considerations in the donor's home country and development fashions. You may find that support is withdrawn or renewed may be denied. The renewal capacity may be denied, mind you, for factors unconnected with the success of your work. International aid comes as projects. This may not fit what you need, and you may find yourself having to twist and shape what you really want to do so that it fits donor options. International aid does not build up support for your NGO within your own country. It can make you vulnerable to accusations of being a stooge of a foreign government or entity. International aid generally does not help you to become more self-reliant. It usually makes you more dependent, particularly on your activities that's dependent on donors' resources, which you cannot control. In fact, most commentators would say that this is developmentally unsound. It is possible, mind you, to get funding to build up self-reliance, and you should continuously ask for this where possible. Although it is foreign money that is normally the most attractive aspect of foreign developmental organizations, your NGO should consider other important non-monetary aspects. This can include technical help. This can be technical help for the sort of subject areas that you're examining through sharing of information, through technical data and the like. It can be through solidarity, the readiness of foreign organizations to stand with you and back you through defending your NGO's work, affirming your commitment, publicizing your achievements, helping you when you're attacked. This can mean links to other sources of help or information overseas, as well as collaboration in pursuing information from their own country, which has repercussions in your own country. Another strategy for fundraising is soliciting the support of the general public. At the simplest level, this can involve soliciting for help to the general public through street collections or house-to-house collections. But this can also involve appeals for help to specific groupings of the public via clubs, associations, or other membership groups. A specific version of this could be collecting from places of employment through agreed payroll donations. Some fundraising can also be done by events, think sponsored walks or auctions. Do not forget that the very basic way of raising money by selling membership in your own organization. Another way of fundraising is by providing some special service for which a price is paid, knowing that the funds will go to your organization. Such special events could be sponsored entertainment, such as concerts, parties, walks, sports. Yet another way of requesting help from the general public is targeted advertising, in which your NGO simply requests support for the work that it is doing via the media or invites people to join your organization and by doing so pay your membership fee. The aims of a membership scheme are, however, not necessarily just to raise money. They may also be targeted at people who are interested in doing something to help your NGO more generally. Many of the approaches discussed thus far require the help of a considerable number of volunteers who are needed to organize them. There also required considerable expertise, as it is quite easy to lose money in the process of trying to raise money, particularly when organizing events. The other aspect of public fundraising is that in the process of fundraising, you will be announcing the existence of your organization, and sympathizers may well bring your information valuable for your work. The private sector is another avenue for fundraising. It is possible that the causes your NGO espouses would appeal to the business section in your own country, and they may be interested in either making a donation to your NGO or in sponsoring some event which will bring you income, as well as highlighting their own corporate identity. It may be that businesses would feel that their public identification with your NGO would be politically unwise, but they are still willing to help you serendipitously. Perhaps with such useful items, for instance, such as furniture or secondhand computers or the use of a building. The most useful kinds of support that a business can give you is its information pertinent to your cause and help with the running of your organization. This can be a gift of time of specialized individuals such as lawyers, advertisers, accountants, artists, which can be quite valuable for your NGO's operations and activities. The NGO, of course, must weigh up the possible benefits of help from the business sector with the disadvantages that come from too close an association with a particular firm. The firm may be using the NGO to clean its name, but your NGOs may find that its public identification with the business unhelpful. Too often, thoughts about fundraising overshadow thoughts about fund generating. Many NGOs feel that ownership of a sustainable source of income in the form of a profit-making enterprise is one of the best ways to assure themselves of an income that is not compromised, that gives them a platform to publicize their movement, and that can ensure sustainability. The difficulty comes in identifying an enterprise which is likely to make a profit and whose profits can be passed over to the work of the NGO. It is very easy to get involved in an intended money-making enterprise, which not only does not make money, but also takes time away from individuals and money away from the real work of your NGO. However, income can be generated from enterprises either through those connected to the work of your NGO. Think, for example, books or reports for sale, commission research, or through enterprises unconnected. For example, the sale of t-shirts, providing services, or renting property. If you're fortunate to have members in your NGO which have definitive business acumen, and if your NGO has the capital to invest, your NGO can go into any business which will make money, and it will not detract from the main work of the organization and does not harm your image. It is important to remember, however, that running an enterprise to make money for your organization can harm the organization by taking much time on the business that the organization's original mission is going to suffer. One form of business that's very attractive to NGOs is the investment business. If an NGO were successful in persuading a benefactor to give it a trust fund or property or stocks and shares, then the NGO can receive income in perpetuity from the investment of those funds or the renting of those properties, of course, provided that they're well managed. Deciding to try and raise funds locally is a big decision for an NGO, particularly one that has previously been accustomed to raising funds from foreign donors. The biggest issue for such organizations is deciding that they will actually take on this way of resource mobilization, and they will commit themselves to making it work. It will require a strategic reorientation of their organization to include individuals responsible for membership and fundraising, and it will change the way you do business. Another problem for many organizations is worrying that the fundraising and resource mobilization side of their work will divert the organization from its main role of advocacy on the issues that it's identified. It is quite possible that the organization will put too much effort in running sponsor events to the detriment of their main mission. Another problem is keeping on the right side of the law. In many jurisdictions, the idea of a nonprofit organization earning income for itself has no legal precedent. And in fact, such organizations may find itself paying tax like a for-profit business, to such an extent that trying to earn income no longer makes economic sense. Another consideration is the worries that nonprofit organizations have in associating itself as a for-profit business. All too frequently, they feel that the image which is portrayed by such an association will reflect negatively on their organization. In other words, the general public may not be happy to see an NGO associated as a for-profit making enterprise. Finally, there are internal organizational problems to consider. As your organization grows, it may need to hire staff dedicated to the fundraising and income generation side of things. One of the really micro level issues that occurs when this happens is that Would those individuals, those new staff that's dedicated to fundraising and income generation, be paid the same as the individuals working on the other side of things? Will they be under the same system of supervision? Such micro-level issues can divide an organization and cause inherent tensions which can divert the organization from its main mission. The last aspect we will cover in this lecture on fundraising is the proposal. Whether you're seeking funds internationally or locally, a common feature will be a good proposal. The proposal is a very simple, good argument which should persuade an individual in a sort of donor organization to help your NGO. It needs to cover all the kinds of questions that a donor is likely to ask, and it needs to be clear, well presented, and logical. In general, the main elements of a proposal are as follows. A description, who you are as an NGO, the problem your organization was established to solve, what you have established to date. Objectives, what you hope to accomplish and what results you hope to achieve. Methods, how you intend to achieve the stated objectives and why you have chosen these methods. Monitoring and evaluation, how you intend to evaluate the effectiveness of your work, both in terms of process and impact. Money, what do you need and for what period? Fundraising sort of strategy or funding strategy, how you intend to raise the funds required and how you intend to continue after the present funding period is over. Budget, the amount of money you need broken down into capital and recurrent expenditure over the period requested. Make sure you include budget notes which explain why you need certain goods or how the prices are identified. Also, make sure you include an allowance for inflation on multiple year projects and an overhead rate or administrative fee. And finally, a summary of all the above. This concludes our lecture on fundraising. In our final lectures, we will look at the topical areas that NGOs engage in, namely human rights, humanitarianism, and the environment.